All right, in this video, I'm going to be talking about a few things here. First thing I'm going to be talking about is why 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 did the first temple get built? What was the reason for it? And who built the second temple? And then who's going to build the third temple? I'm also going to be talking about the Song of Songs, who wrote it, and my theory as to who it was written about. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about Ecclesiastes. And I'm also going to be talking a little bit about the Garden of Eden. So, that being said, if you like this type of topic, feel free to subscribe, and please feel free to comment, share, like this video, all this kind of stuff. This helps me know if you are interested in this type of thing. And I encourage you to do your due diligence, read. I try to read the Bible every single day. In fact, I spend hours reading the Bible every day, but that is me. That may not be you. Maybe you only have time to read a verse a day or a chapter a day or whatever. I'm here to tell you that you're not going to get very much information by reading one verse a day or one chapter a day. You only begin to understand portions of the Bible when you read it in chunks, line by line, verse by verse, book by book. So with that being said, who built the first temple? It was King Solomon. And was it necessary? That's the question I'm asking right now. Was it necessary to build the temple? Or was there a misunderstanding? I believe there was a misunderstanding. I believe that God told David that he was not to build the temple, and in fact, God will build the temple. So right there alone, you can argue with me all day long whether or not the temple should be built. God said that he'll build the temple, not King David. And he did not say specifically that King Solomon would build the temple. In fact, he said, in the future, through your seed, I will establish your kingdom. He will build the temple, and he will be my son. I will be called his father. Who does that remind you of? That's Jesus Christ. And in fact, when Jesus was on earth, he said, if you destroy this temple, I will build it in 3 days, meaning himself. So he is to build the temple. And believe it or not, we are the temple of the Holy Spirit. So that's interesting. So who built the second temple then? Because the Jews tried to rebuild the first temple, but they didn't have enough resources to rebuild it exactly the way that King Solomon built it. So then who built the second temple? Well, that was King Herod, a non-Jew. So it's interesting that King Solomon had help from non-Jews to build the first temple, resources. They gave him material that was not from around Israel, including cedar trees. We're going to be talking a little bit about that in Ecclesiastes. In the Garden of Eden. So basically, secular people helped build the first temple, and obviously King Solomon oversaw the project. And obviously King David came up with the blueprints. The second temple was built by King Herod, and who's going to build the third temple? Well, I believe the Antichrist is going to help out with that. Whether or not somebody's going to be in charge, like a Jew, it's possible from Israel. Somebody's going to be in charge of that temple being built. But I believe it's going to be bankrolled by the Antichrist. And there's going to be a 7-year deal made because the temple was built in 7 years. And there's going to be a deal made, peace and all this kind of stuff, probably meaning that enough time is going to be allocated to build the temple within 7 years. And maybe they get it done a little bit early, because halfway through, 3.5 years in, the Antichrist comes in and sits on the throne and declares himself to be God, and then all the Jews flee Jerusalem, just like the Bible says. They get out of Dodge because hell is on earth now. So That being said, I'm kind of jumping all over here. Who wrote Song of Songs? Well, most people, and I agree with this, believe that Solomon wrote it. I believe this. But they're not sure who it was about. Some people think it was about Israel and God's love for Israel. Some people think it's about Christ and his love for the church. I'm going to jump out and say that I believe this was written about Eve, and I believe this is written about the serpent. And again, I've not heard this from anyone else, but if you read this from this perspective, that the Song of Songs is about the serpent and Eve, it will change how you view that book, because the woman in the book is desiring this person above measure. She is sick with love because of how he looks and all kinds of stuff. And there's one point in Song of Songs where she can't find him anymore. She gets found out and she can't find him. So I think this is King Solomon being obsessed, possessed by the devil, writing the Song of Songs about what happened in the Garden of Eden through allegory, all this kind of stuff. Because when you read, and I believe it's Genesis 3, whenever they fell, God says to Adam, what did you do? And he said, well, the wife that you gave me some fruit and I ate. So Eve desired that fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and I believe that was the serpent. I believe that tree was the serpent. I'm not saying that Eve had sex with the serpent. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying something transpired. The fruit came off of that tree, which was from the serpent. Something happened. Some type of conception, I don't know what, but something happened relationally. Not saying intercourse, because I don't understand how it would have worked back then, but very close to that. Very close to that. She was infatuated with the serpent, how he looked and everything. And in fact, he beguiled her. So he might have said something. He might have sang to her. We don't know what happened there, but her desire was towards the serpent and everything that he had. When God said, do not partake of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And the serpent said, if you take of this fruit of this tree, meaning him, you will know good and evil. King Solomon asks God to know good and evil in a dream. Remember, it was a dream. It wasn't Nathan. It wasn't a prophet that came to King Solomon. God did not approach King Solomon through a prophet, did not say, what do you want? It was in a dream. So King Solomon was dreaming that God spoke to him and said, ask me whatever you want. And this is my humble interpretation. I believe that that could have been the devil influencing his mind and saying, what do you want? Do you want wisdom? I'll give you wisdom. Do you want money? Do you want everything? Almost like how, because think about it. He was at the pinnacle. He was just starting out on top of the world. And that's usually when the devil comes. So I believe the devil came to him in a dream. Jesus was tempted by the devil. With what? With power. He said, I'll give you the kingdom if you turn these stones into bread. If you throw yourself down and rise up again, I will give you my kingdom. That's what the devil said to Jesus. I will give you everything that I have if you just bow down and worship me. So basically, Solomon is saying, if you give me knowledge, I'll do whatever you want. Again, this is my theory. Nobody else is talking about this. So I'm not trying to form any new doctrine or whatever. I'm trying to form the idea that maybe the temple shouldn't have been built in the first place, because there were already high places where People were sacrificing incense on high places. That didn't stop. King Solomon began to have wives throughout his reign as king. He had 700 wives, 300 concubines. He worshipped just about every god under the sun, including Moloch and Baal and all these gods. So don't think that he was an innocent bystander here. He was either possessed, obsessed by the devil, and he followed him. Doesn't say that he worshiped the devil, but if you're worshiping Baal and Moloch and all these gods that sacrifice children, you're going to get, your mind is going to be a little bit wonky. It's going to get a little crazy. And you're going to get rich. You're going to get rich, but it's going to cost you at the end of the day. And it cost King Solomon the kingdom, and Israel was never the same after that. That is my whole point. He was asking for knowledge. He got knowledge and beyond. And even if God gave him that knowledge, which ultimately that's where all the knowledge comes from, Solomon did not use that wisely. And it corrupted him. He became crazy. So if you think about it, if you read the book of Ecclesiastes from the point of view that Solomon is possessed by the devil, and is written from the perspective of the devil looking down at people, looking down meaning like almost in disgust towards humanity, and almost in disgust at possessing King Solomon. And again, this is not doctrine, so I'm just presenting an argument as to why Israel fell very quickly. It's because I believe he was manipulated by the serpent himself. And you can just read it. You just read First Kings. Like, it goes downhill, and they are never recovering. They never recovered after that. They will recover one day, but they never recovered after that. So I believe the serpent that was in the Garden of Eden, which is the devil, had some kind of relationship with Eve to the point where she desired him, because her judgment was, your desire will be towards your husband and he will rule over you. Meaning to me that she desired whatever the serpent had, whatever it was. Now, I know, like, one of the theories that I had, and this is probably crazy, was that the fruit of the serpent actually impregnated Eve, and she bore Cain through the serpent. That's a theory of mine. I don't find anyone else saying that. So Cain. So this is, you can put it on me and blame me and say this is the craziest idea ever. But then Adam shortly after knew Eve. And I don't know if he knew how to do anything before with Eve, but he sure knew how to afterwards. And I think coincidentally, Cain and Abel were born at roughly the same time, because of how it is worded in the Bible, where Eve bore Cain, and then Eve bore Abel. So it doesn't say Adam went in again. He only went in one time to Eve. So I think maybe she was impregnated by the serpent with Cain, and Cain was formed. And at the same time, within a few days or whatever, Adam knew Eve and had Abel. And then they were born. It's proven that you can have two fathers and one inside one womb. You can have two children from different fathers inside one womb. So I believe that, again, this is me, that the serpent is the father of Cain, and Adam is the father of Abel. If you read it from this perspective, things start to make a little bit more sense. Even today, when you want to do good things, like Paul says, all of a sudden evil is right there. As soon as you start wanting to be a good person, starting to read, all of a sudden you're being tempted with the desires that are maybe deep down inside you. So it's just interesting. So then afterwards, Abel presents an offering, sacrifices some meat, I guess, sheep. And then Cain brings a different type of offering, and God looks down at that. Why? Maybe because he was the son of the serpent. I don't know. All I know is Cain killed Abel afterwards, and then Adam went in and knew Eve, and she said that God gave her another son in place of Abel, whom Cain slew, which is Seth. And Cain's lineage basically caused all kinds of havoc. He went and built cities. He taught his sons how to play instruments. This is where all that came from. And we know the serpent, the devil, knew instruments. He was a cherub. So I'm telling you, this is, if you read Ecclesiastes from the perspective that King Solomon was possessed by the devil, and if you read Song of Songs from the perspective that it was written about Eve and the serpent in the garden, and if you look at the Garden of Eden where something happened where Eve desired the serpent, which I believe is the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it's tied in there. Other things start to make sense, because then you start to think, okay, this is why Solomon fell so hard, because he was obsessed, possessed by the devil, and he fell hard. And then everyone else after him, especially from the tribes of Israel, they fell. The 10 tribes, not one king was good. Judah, there was only a few kings that were good. Anyways, I know that's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you think. This crazy stuff. Have you heard this kind of stuff before? Again, I think it was a mistake to build the first temple, the second temple, and I think it will be a serious mistake building the third temple, because God is building his own temple. And if we let God do his own thing, that is better than us trying to do it ourselves. So that is it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of this, and I will see you in another video. Bye for now, and have a good rest of your day.